Welcome to the Ben Mulroney Show. It's Friday, October 10th. We are on the eve of a long weekend in Canada. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. It's also a weekend where a lot of people will be holding their breath because the Gaza peace plan brought forth by Donald Trump seems to, at least in these early days, be following the script, meaning the Israeli cabinet voted in favor of this deal. And true to their word, the IDF is beginning its drawdown on the ground in Gaza, which starts the 72-hour clock that allows for Hamas to get their act together and round up all of the hostages that they took on October 7th that have not been returned home. Some of them alive, hopefully. Some, unfortunately, no longer with us. And once that happens, then we move on to the next phases. So it looks like things are going well, but we hold our breath and we hope for the best. And we hope that all people involved appeal to their better angels and we get to a place where this thing takes root and grows. And so the question is, are Israelis and Gazans on the same page? Is everyone on the same page here? And to talk about that, let's welcome Gavriel Sanders back to the show. He's a spokesperson for the Be a Mensch Foundation. Gavriel, welcome back.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Ben. I'm still a fan.
So now, are you a fan of what is playing out today in Gaza?
So the two words that I've been echoing when asked that question are guardedly optimistic.
Yeah. I think that's responsible.
The reason for the optimism is that phase one gives us something we've been aching for, obviously, 2 years. And that is the return of the hostages so we can bury our dead and help these people heal and get them back to be repatriated with their families and to go through all of the psychological and physical adjustments they have to go through. So I'm optimistic about phase one.
Yeah.
It's what's beyond that concerns me.
What do you mean by that?
First of all, the Hamas charter says that any paper agreement is temporary. The word ceasefire in Arabic basically implies a temporary truce to gain a tactical advantage.
Yes.
That's what the word hudna means, and a lot of people in journalism like yourself know that. So the second thing is that every major agreement that's been made up to now, whether it's Camp David, Oslo, etc., everyone has been broken.
Yeah.
Thirdly, the Palestinian Authority included in what I'm saying, they've never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity.
Yeah.
And then I think, as I was speaking with the producer, the old story of the frog crossing the river with the scorpion on its back and it gets stung in the middle because the scorpion has to exercise its nature. I was speaking to somebody else the other day from another network, and we noted the fact that the Palestinian people have had decades of vicious, toxic indoctrination that Jews are the sons of pigs and monkeys, that they're occupiers, that the land of Israel is a wedge from the West to divide the Muslim nation. And that's, of course, what they believe. Another final thing I'll say, and I'd love your feedback, is the Islamic mindset sees the world in a bifurcated way. What does that mean? It means two spheres. There's the house of war, and there's the House of Islam. And it's the sworn duty of the House of Islam to subdue and absorb the House of War. So what does that mean? In Islam, by the way, it doesn't mean peace, as George Bush said after 9/11, and the president of Italy said the same thing, and Tony Blair said the same thing. It doesn't mean peace, it means submission. That submission, you become a Muslim, you pay the jizya tax of 20%, or you basically become a slave, economically or physically. And that's the strategy. And that hasn't changed. And that won't change. So how a person's worldview works out is what we don't understand here. And this is a theologically driven agenda.
But Gavriel, as part of this plan, isn't there some sort of international oversight on whatever government would take, whatever would replace Hamas, meaning like everything down to the education system would be monitored by some sort of extra governmental body? And if they run afoul of that, and if they are doing all the things that they have been doing for decades, building tunnels, creating a system of graft and corruption where billions of dollars get siphoned back to some very rich people in Qatar, and meanwhile the children live in poverty and are fed lies about their Israeli neighbors. If any of that is attempted again, that will result in penalties on that side.
So that's a great theory, and I'm in agreement with it if it can have feet to it. But again, we're looking at an enormous timeline. The Middle East Media Research Institute this morning noted that one of the worst players to have involved in this, and one of the wealthiest, would be Qatar.
Yeah.
Because they play a dual role. They start the fires.
Yeah.
And then they come in as the firefighter.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And they've spent hundreds of billions of dollars to co-opt the United States and other nations' educational system.
Yep.
So that agenda is not going to stop just because we got to rebuild 86% of the buildings in Gaza.
Unlike perhaps the scenarios of the past, there are a great number of Arab neighbors, like Saudi Arabia, for example, that is in support of this deal. Could pressure not be brought to bear on the Qatari leadership to fall in line to change their tactics? All of this work is happening. And if Donald Trump is putting all his eggs in this basket and he knows that he's got a fire starter over there in Qatar, they also have a military base there that pumps billions of dollars into that country. He could pull that military base at any point. There's a whole bunch of things that he could do. And then the members of the Arab League that are in support of Donald Trump could follow suit. Is that not something different about this scenario from the previous ones that you referenced?
So I'll put that in the basket that I call potential. It's a could be. I can't say necessarily that it's a will be.
Yeah.
Why do I say that? Because I'm intransigent, or here's a good Scrabble word, truculent about all of this, contumacious? No, not at all. Having studied the history and conflicts in the Middle East for 40 years, and having lived in the Middle East for over 8 years, and not just in Israel, I did 2.5 years in Saudi Arabia, so I feel like I know that place fairly well. I'm looking at a very fixed, embedded mindset, the one I mentioned before, that is the bifurcated worldview. I've never heard anybody, maybe you have, I've never heard anybody use the phrase Islamic supremacy. Have you?
Islamic supremacy?
Yeah, we have white supremacy.
Yeah.
There is a notion in the theology of they're number one, they're the top dogs. That's not a good word to use with them, by the way. I probably shouldn't use that. But they're the top of the heap. They're the superior people, and their job is to subdue the world through their evangelistic program known as Dawah.
Yep.
And if Saudi Arabia can rein them in and be part of this, and we can get a peace agreement in Israel with the Saudis, and it's really working like we have with the Emirates, I'm guarded. Again, I go back to being guardedly optimistic, because I know this not just from theory, I know this from practice on the ground in relationships and what people have said to me as far as what their ultimate aim is. And the ultimate aim, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I said it last week on your program, the ultimate aim is not peace with Israel, but every piece of Israel, because there cannot be an egalitarian or an equal society of Muslims and Jews living side by side in land that the Muslims used to control.
Yeah.
We deal with some of this in our book called Extreme Trauma, especially the chapter by a journalist from Italy, Fiamma Nierenstein, on Hamasticide. And we want people to be aware of this, get educated about the mindset. Then you understand what's really going on.
Gavriel, we got to leave it there. I appreciate the insights today.
Be blessed, everyone.
All right. Are Buddhists quietly taking over PEI? Is that really a thing? We'll discuss next.